Good afternoon, children. Children, hope all of you have taken your lunch and now you're ready for my class. Please don't sleep and wake up because we have to continue the lesson federalism. But children, before continuing the lesson, I will just revise what we have taught in our previous lesson. I think some of you are having doubts in some portion. We'll also revise once again. But before that, we'll just revise what we did in our previous class. Children, in our previous class, we discussed about what is federalism. We also discussed about the features of federalism. Various other features we had discussed with the help of examples. Then we discussed the two main points, that was what makes a country a federal country, and second was how federalism is being practiced in a country. In the first part, that is what makes a country federal country, we have to discuss some 3 points. Our country becomes a federal country because the parts are divided in 3 lists. Children, this is nothing new to you. These things you have learned in class 7th and 8th also. It is very common, all of you must be knowing. And that's why I did not give more stress to this point, but if you have problem, we'll discuss once again. The parts of our country are divided into main 3 lists, and the fourth one also came after some time. In this 3 list, the first is union list. As the name states, union means central government. The parts which comes, the subjects which comes under union list are banking, railways, finance, and various other issues, defense of our country, foreign affairs. All these things come under the union list. Now, what do you understand by the term when it comes under union list? The decision which should be made regarding all these subjects will be done by central government. As it comes in union list, suppose if any decision has to be taken regarding the banking sector, regarding railways, what the decisions will be taken by central government. That means it will be taken by Prime Minister and other council of ministers and various other ministers. Suppose if any decision is to be taken regarding the banking sector, it will be taken by Prime Minister and other ministers. If it has to be taken by railways, it will be taken by railway minister. As you know very well that railway minister, he is at the central level. State ministers are also there, but final decision is taken by central. So this different issue regarding foreign affairs, defense, banking, railways, post and telegraph, all these subjects come under union list. As they come under union list, the decision regarding these issues, these subjects are taken by central government, and that is why it is known as union list. It is clear, children? Now, the second is state list. In state list, all the decisions regarding the subjects are taken by state government, chief minister, that is, and other ministers. The ministers at the state level. The subjects which come under this list are police, irrigation, agriculture, and many other issues which are related to at the state level, electricity, trade, commerce, all these subjects which are related to the different states. For example, if any decision regarding the agricultural sector of Bihar, it is to be taken by a chief minister. Always you see Bihar police. Have you ever seen Indian police? Bihar police, Madhya Pradesh police. Always you see. So police comes under state list. Agriculture, electricity. Always you would be reading in the newspaper, Bihar Electricity Board. So trade, commerce, the matters relating to, decisions relating to the trade and commerce of Bihar is taken by a chief minister and other ministers of the state. So the subjects which are under the control of the state government, which are under the control of other state and other ministers of the state, it comes under which list? State list. This list you are having in the book of class 10 of class 10th also, and you just refer to your books of class 7th and 8th. And after this class, I will also give you a list which you note down in your copy regarding the subjects of different list. Now we have discussed the two lists, union list and state list. The third list is concurrent list. This concurrent list consists of the subjects like education, marriage, divorce, adoption, and many other things. Now you will say that what is the difference between concurrent list and state list? The difference is whatever issues, whatever subjects are there in concurrent list, the decision regarding the subjects can be combinedly taken by central government and state government. Both the governments can take decisions. Children, you know very well that if syllabus of different ICSE, CBSE, syllabus of the schools are to be changed, both state and central government take decisions combinedly. In all other issues like marriage, adoption, central and state government both can take decision. So in concurrent list, both state and central government have the power to take the decision. But here, one thing you have to remember, the thing is, if any conflict arises in taking decision regarding all this issue, who will dominate children? You have studied in junior classes. In that case, central government will dominate. In taking decision regarding concurrent list, central government will dominate. Whatever they will say, that will happen. But this is in abnormal situations. But in normal situations, what happens? Mostly both central and state government can take decisions. So these are the three lists. First is union list, second is state list, and third is concurrent list. Now after independence, many years, and at present you can say many years after independence, certain new things have come into existence. That is computers, globalization you can say, IT sector. Our constitution makers, they were not knowing that our India will become a computerized, the technology will develop at a so fast rate. So they did not think about computerization, they did not think about IT sector. But now these things also have become very important. Now a country is run by technology. People have become technocrats. It is very essential that rules and regulations should be made in this sector also. So in this sector, the decision making power rests in the hand of central government, and these subjects relating to computers, technology, IT sector, these subjects are known as residuary subjects. In case of residuary subjects, who takes decision, children? Central government. Please remember, a separate question comes from this part, that who can take decision in case of residuary parts. Now children, we have discussed the list, union list, central list and concurrent list. Now I think it is clear to everyone. If you have any confusion, you can ask me after this video and I'll give you the examples after this lecture in a written form. Now this part is related to what makes India a federal country. Please remember, please don't get confused. If the question is asked, what makes India a federal country? Two ways question can be asked. What makes India a federal country? You have to explain state list, union list and concurrent list. And it can also come that please explain the different list in our country or how the power is divided between the different governments. Then also the answer will be same. Please don't tell me, ma'am, you have not taught this, we don't know the answer. No. Question is asked in different ways, answer is same. Because now you have to give boards. In board, nobody will come to you to explain the questions. You should know the technique. You should try to understand the question. Then only you will be able to write the answers. So children, today we have revised about. It is on your demand because you told me that this part was left unexplained. I have explained you again. Again, if you have any confusion, you can ask me in the doubt section. Now children, will proceed with the last part of the lesson, that is decentralization. I think all of you must be knowing the meaning of centralization and decentralization. Before starting the lesson, I told you regarding the difference between unitary system and federal system. Unitary system of government is that government in which power is centralized in one hand. You can take example of Sri Lanka. And federal system means where power is divided between the different parts in a country, between different units. That is known as federal system. Power is decentralized. So before starting decentralization, we will start with what was the need for decentralization in India. Children, before starting this lesson, I told you that in India, lot of diversity is there. People speaking different language, different culture live in our country. Due to this only, our country, what was practiced? Language policy and linguistic state was practiced. But after that also you know very well that villages of our country are as large as European countries. People speaking different language, different culture live in our country. And it was very difficult for the chief minister or the state government and central government to tackle the problem at the local levels. I will explain you with help of example. Suppose all of you mostly live in the urban areas. And what happens? You just go in your village, if you're having any village, if you're having your native town, for once in a year, or twice in a year, or in festivals. Children, do you know what are the problems of your village? Either they are getting water, either they have good roads or not. You're not aware of all the problems. People, those who are living in those areas, they only know the problems they faced daily. And they can only solve the problems at the local levels. In the same way, the problem faced by different people living in the villages, living in the other local areas, it cannot be known to the chief minister or prime minister of our country at a very minute level. So a need was felt in a vast country like India, which is densely populated, where there is so many diversities. A need was felt that a third level should come into existence, and this direction was given in a constitution that when time comes, rural and local urban government should also be practiced. So need was felt that after central government and state government, the third level of government should also be practiced, and that was known as rural local self and urban local self government, and it was practiced. So due to the diversity and dense population of our country, decentralization became a must. But this was just an idea which was given by a constitution makers when a constitution was made. It was not made compulsion. Panchayats were there in many villages after independence also, but it was not compulsory. No powers were given to them. They were totally under the central government or the state government. But this change came when? It came in 1992. Our late Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, he worked, he gave his fullest effort, he contributed in implementing Panchayati Raj. And he made amendment in the constitution in 1992 in which decentralization and Panchayati Raj came into existence, and it has become compulsory at present that Panchayati Raj has been practiced. So in 1992, an amendment was made in the constitution where Panchayati Raj became a must, and now elections are held in our country for panchayats. Now, under these amendments, what were the provisions? The provision was, first, it was made mandatory for different states to hold panchayat elections. Second, some seats were reserved for women and scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in the elections of panchayats. Third, a separate body which was known as State Election Commission was appointed to see whether elections are held in a proper way in panchayats. And that is why elections were held in past also, but now at present elections are held very strictly for local self government, both at urban level and both at local level also. And the fourth was separate revenue was given for panchayats. That means the panchayats were given funds from the chief minister. Separately, they were given money and they were not answerable to the state. They can use their money, they could use their money for the development of their area. So they were autonomous. They were not to answer to anyone and they got funds for the development of the state. And likewise, due to this provision, the Panchayati Raj came into existence, came in free force in India. It became compulsion. In which year? 1992. And the Prime Minister contributed. It is not given in a book. The name of Prime Minister is not given. But you should know, you should have knowledge. Sometimes in value-based questions, these type of questions are also asked that who contributed in implementing Panchayati Raj and in which year. So in 1992, Panchayati Raj became a compulsion because amendment was done in a constitution. And in these amendments, several provisions were done. And now at present in our country, elections are held at rural and urban local self-government. So this is why decentralization has become a must, or what is the need of decentralization in country like India, or what is the rationale behind decentralization. Children, if this question comes to you, you have to write this answer what I've explained you just now. This was the first point, that why need of decentralization, and the answer is due to population, due to diversities, and all these points you have to explain in this question. Now I will deal with the second point, that what is decentralization? Decentralization is a process in which the power is taken away from the central government and given to different constituent units, or the power is taken from central authority and divided between different constituent units. That means in federal system you studied, power is divided between central government and state government. Here the power is taken away from state government and given to the different local governments. Power is decentralized. It is not in the hand of one person. At the top you see Prime Minister, then Chief Minister, and after that power is divided between the different people who are elected in the rural local self-government, in the urban local self-government. So this process of decentralization of power, division of power between the central and various constituent units is known as decentralization. So this decentralization came into existence in full force in 1992. So to explain decentralization, I had just given you definition, what was the need, and we'll proceed with decentralization, what is decentralization and how it is being practiced. Now, I think children, all of you have studied in class 6th regarding Gram Panchayat, Zilla Parishad and Block Samiti. You have also studied about municipal council and municipal corporation. So this decentralization is based on all these things. It is the way how decentralization is being practiced. So Panchayati Raj is divided into two ways, is practiced in two ways. The first is rural local self-government and urban local self-government. It is divided into two ways. It is practiced in two parts. A local self-government has two divisions, rural local self-government and urban local self-government. Rural local self-government is concerned with the rural areas. The whole district, the whole area is divided into rural and urban. Rural means related to villages and urban means related to towns. In this class, I will explain you short. In the next class, I will just explain in details that what is Gram Panchayat, how Gram Panchayat is elected, what is Block Samiti, then after Block Samiti, what is Zilla Parishad. These are the three components of rural local self-government. And next, urban local self-government consists of municipalities and municipal corporations. All these things we'll discuss in detail in the next class. So today, before concluding the class, I will just give you a short assignment in that. See, I will not repeat in all my classes. I've taught you in class 9th also, most of the students, and you know very well that whatever taught portion is there, everything is given in your book. And in that What you have to do? Suppose I have taught you the whole chapter. From every paragraph, you have to frame at least one or two questions. Suppose the first part I have taught you what is federalism and what are the features of federalism. From that, you have to frame 2 to 3 short questions. That is MCQ, fill in the blanks like this. After that, I taught you what is language policy and all that. From that also, you have to frame questions. That means from every part, you have to make at least total 20 short questions and frame it. And in you have to post it in your homework so that I can check it. Because if you do this, what will happen? What you will do, you will read the whole lesson, frame the question and write the answers. And when school will reopen, I will see whether you have prepared the answers or not. And you can post your homework also. I will check in that also. And after that, you have to prepare all the short questions, and in case of notes, everything is given in your book. If something extra is there, I will give you notes after reopening of the school on each topic which is in detail. But still now you have to prepare the short questions and all what is federalism, what are its features, everything is given point wise in your book, and you have to follow whatever is written in NCERT book. Please don't write the answers of any other books. So for today it is enough. We'll continue in the next class with the last part of the lesson, and in that class we'll do the revision of the whole chapter. We'll conclude the lesson and I'll ask you some questions also. Thank you children for today, and we'll continue in the next class.